of all
every
that, of how much things have changed.
well, yeah, and and then like I have time missing now where I go on Pleiadian ships, and I just had somebody else who channels the Pleiadians that told me, and he just out of the blue he said, "Oh yeah, and those beings that you're channeling," he said, "those are very high vibrational." He said, "You're channeling from the angelic realm." He says, "You can't
Oh,
get any closer. That is home for you." And I'm just like,
oh,
holy shit.
that's so amazing to hear.
I
Oh,
know, and
how
everybody else
exciting.
on the call kind of freaked out too. They're like, "What? He's channeling from the angelic realm?" Yeah,
How exciting to connect with that, you know?
I know.
Um,
I'm building on it. It's been less than 3 months, so
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, that's amazing, Ray. I'm so pleased to hear that.
me too. Thank you very much.
Um, okay, so I might just give me a minute getting to the state. I feel all discombobulated. Just have a sip of coffee.
Well, thanks for being discombobulated for us.
Thanks so much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. I was thinking like, oh, I might start a channeling once a month, and then I thought, what if nobody comes?
Thanks
Oh
for
well,
being here.
just have to do it out to the universe. Thanks, Lewis. How you doing?
Doing good here, and just keeping track of some of this stuff that's happening to Ray and to Chris. It's amazing, all of them, just
So
amazing,
awesome.
just amazing.
Um, okay. Ooh. Greetings. This is Zariyah from the Orion civilization. We are so pleased that you could join us on this day for this brief transmission regarding the timeline to 2050. How exciting! As you have come through the year 2024, you may have been so focused on the changing landscape that it did not occur to you that you were rounding out the first quarter century of the 21st century, and that first quarter, if you like, was well played, we will say, well played indeed. And here you are shifting into really a new energy, a new vibrational atmosphere, a new chapter, and this 25-year window that represents the second quarter of the 21st century is going to not only continue with the rapid expansion, but many of the exciting events and much of the prophesized unfolding or the previews of the unfolding that you have been having is going to really land and is going to really be experienced in the next 25-year window on a timeline where time folds or unfolds in a linear way. You do understand. What we would like to draw your attention to is, as you were previously discussing prior to this transmission, that you are radically transformed in ways that you could not imagine from the beginning of 2024 to the end of 2024. in the beginning of 2025 to the beginning of 2050, you will really not know yourself at all. It is such a leap that it is difficult for the human mind, from the vantage point of where you now stand, to really comprehend what society will look like, what your experience will look like, what your knowledge of your own self and history and earth will look like as you cross the half timeline in the 21st century. How exciting. The thrust of what we would like to get across to you today is that you have shown great flexibility, great malleability as you weathered or surfed the changes of 2024, and your reward is now to walk into this new energy with confidence that you have begun to really integrate significant changes. You have tapped into higher vibrational brackets. You have made contact in many forms with non-physical and extraterrestrial beings, and those unfoldings are only going to deepen as you continue on the path to contact and rising your vibration to meet the ascended capacity of the new earth. How exciting. We do hope that this message is encouraging to you as you ride the wave that brings you into your fourth dimension, reaching into those fifth dimensional energies and onwards to the center point of the 21st century. There is a song on your planet, Here Comes the 21st Century, and we will tell you, you are well past it coming now, and you are at a point where you can buckle up for that really wild middle road ride. How exciting. If you do have any questions, we are happy to take them at this time.
Hi, Zariyah.
Hello.
I have a question about intuition. I asked about this before, but this time I would like to know, is intuition like a source of knowledge somewhere that we access, because that we have access to?
Yes, yes, indeed. In fact, intuition is your most valuable source of knowledge, if you will, because it is the direct communication from your higher mind. It is knowledge that is filtered through your physical mind and also is resonant in your emotional body. And then it forms what you would describe as a type of knowing, a hunch, a feeling, an inclination. The idea that you can source knowledge not from that channel, meaning that you can source knowledge from places other than your higher mind, is also real. Of course, you can source knowledge from other beings, from literature, or from data inputs, but that is really a synthesizing of your physical mind to try to present to you information in a way that is useful. It is not necessarily as particular to you in this now moment and what would serve you on your path as the knowledge that comes from your higher mind, which is represented to you in the form of intuition. The more and more that you can elevate the experience of intuition as knowledge and communication from your higher mind in your experience, the more and more that you can tap into it, can trust it, can recognize it and decode it with clarity, the easier the unfolding of your path and your alignment on that path will be, because you understand your higher mind is always concerned to feed you information, to communicate with you at pivotal junctures on the unfolding of your path. And the more open you are to that down here in your physical experience, the more joyful and more expansive your unfolding will be. Does that help?
Yes. And what is the emotional state that will have better access to intuition? Like, do we have to be calm, or do we have to be happy and high, or when we are sad, do we also have access to the intuition?
Yes, there are many ways that the emotional state that is optimum or ideal for communication with your higher mind is represented. There are various channels on your planet that have termed this state highest excitement, follow your bliss, follow your joy. And all of these are ways of saying or giving you access to achieve the vibration of unconditional love in one sense. The understanding of unconditional love on your planet has been distorted in many ways, and therefore it is often represented by other vocabulary, which is less challenging for the human psyche in its current condition to embrace. Joy, excitement, bliss are words that do characterize that experience of unconditional love, because unconditional love is the vibration of expansion, total self acceptance, total other acceptance, total joy and rapture at the understanding of the way reality really is. In the vibration of unconditional love, often represented in joy, excitement, or bliss, you have disentangled your experience from the belief systems of the physical mind that would attempt to control it, if you will. And in that sense, you have entered into a plane where there is free, open, and unencumbered communication between your self, physical self, and your higher. Does that help?
Thank you. That's wonderful.
We will just add that there are often ways that you can encourage yourself into that vibration, if you will, that vibration of joy, that vibration of bliss or unconditional love. If you can think of something uncomplicated that you know when you hold in your mind, heart, eye, that draws forth from you uncorrupted joy. This can often be the image of a baby animal or a pet. This can be the image of a child or an memory of an experience. It can be a landscape or a flower that is particularly beautiful or poignant. If you can hold that image in your heart mind for a moment, you will feel your body flood with the uncomplicated joy and bliss that aligning with that image brings you. And that will help you become immersed with or flooded with the vibrational frequency range of unconditional love. We hope that helps.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, Zariyah. It's a pleasure to be able to interact with you again.
Yes, indeed.
I don't have a question tonight, but I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to be able to interact with you, and I wanted to express my gratitude. One of the last times that we had interacted, you were talking about the end of 2024 for many of us being a expansion into more and more contact on many different levels. And I
Yes.
know for me, I've definitely experienced that and started to develop a galactic partnership. And I've seen many other people develop much of the same. So I just want to express so much gratitude for being that guiding light. And I know that we have all had to take the steps ourselves, but my deepest appreciation.
Well, we can only reflect back to you our deepest appreciation for your willingness to expand into more of who you really are. Of course, we have brought to your attention on many occasions that while channels are exciting sources of information at various junctures on your timeline, your truest, most exciting due north is your own higher self and the relationships that await you to be expanded into as you move towards the path of contact. And we are so grateful that you have been open to that experience via channeling and other means, as it shows that you yourself are increasingly ready for contact and you are radiating out, pulsing out that vibrational frequency range into the collective. The more you expand your vibrational capabilities, the more the vibrational capabilities of the collective can expand. And you understand that that influences, directly, tangibly influences the likelihood of contact on your timeline. How exciting! There will come a time when you have prepared the way so sufficiently that you will find yourself face to face with an extraterrestrial and you will realize you don't need to channel anymore. You can have the conversation in physical. Oh, how exciting! This is really what we mean by the timeline to 2050. It is going to blow your
So very exciting. Thank you.
so exciting. Thank you.
And I second what Christian said, all of it. Thank you so much for this opportunity and the message. I was
Yes.
curious, I'm sorry. I was curious about our physical universe. I know humans like to try to determine the physical causes of everything, from the Big Bang to the placement and orbits of all of the celestial objects. Is that really rare? I would assume that since other civilizations know that it's all created non-physically and it's a representation of physicality, is is our reality just that unique in that way, Zariyah?
Well, in a sense, you have the reality that it is all a projection or a hologram, if you will. But you also have the third dimensional reality, which is in fact a place where the hologram or the illusion becomes densified to such an extent that it is real, if you like. The idea that you can piece together the physical puzzle of the story of the universe is certainly an endeavor which has been driven by deep excitement from many curious scholars or investigators, archaeologists and cosmologists on your planet, physicists and historians alike, are all driven forward by the same passion for wanting to uncover, to know the way that the universe has represented itself on other timelines, or to use a more familiar term, historically, if you like. And in that sense, the passion that infuses that quest to know the nature of reality has produced many wonderful experiences and paths of deep learning for many beings on your planet. It is because there is a mystery to unravel that you seek to move forward with your path of not just knowing the universe, but of coming to know yourself. You can find an analogy for this idea in the path of channeling, if you like. For example, you could know on one level that everything is already existing at the same time, that you have made all the galactic connections that you will ever make at this moment now, that you know everything there is to know about the true nature of reality and universal expansion now. But it doesn't feel the same experientially as going on the journey, as experiencing the unfolding, as trying to pull the thread that will unravel the mystery, only to find that the mystery unravels eternally and is almost impossible to know entirely. And it is that paradox that you always seek to know more, knowing that you cannot know everything, and knowing that in one sense you already do know everything. That is the fundamental mystery, we will say, of the human condition in this very divine fourth dimensional experience. Does that help?
That was a very expansive answer and much more than I expected. Thank you so much, Zariyah. Appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. How flat the universe would be if there was nothing to be revealed.
You're muted, Luis. Luis, you're muted. Nope, can't hear you.
Sorry, there we are. I'm sorry, my mistake here. Zariyah, it's amazing to be in front of you once again. And
Yes.
I have a question that really has to do with the simulation, this simulation that we're in. The game of polarity. And in striving in the direction of what we're going to call positive polarity, all that is, which is always all and is in balance, immediately fills in my space the awareness of that which is opposite of the light that I'm unfolding. And I am asking the question both from the personal perspective of an individual and also from the perspective of the collective. How can we deal, in various different ways, how to deal with the fact that as we're expanding in the direction of the light, we will see and we will have in some way to deal with that which lies directly opposite of that light.
Yes, indeed. This is perhaps the most poignant path or question that you have come to this dimension to grapple with. It is the theme of your collective humanity at this time. And we cannot, certainly not, resolve it all for you, as there is, as we have already described, that experiential knowing that is different from just information that we could give you. And you are deep in the throes of that experiential knowing in this timeline and indeed within your question. However, we can describe some of the understandings that we have arrived at in our own civilization. We will remind you of the very popular image on your planet of the yin and the yang. There is a fluidity in that, and there is a harmony and a unity in a sense. You can recognize in the fluid lines that separate the light and dark. What you have is something like an embrace. It is an embrace between the light and dark. that is perfectly formed, comfortable, and whole in the knowledge that one cannot exist. One does not desire to exist without its counterpart, without the other, and that in fact, in every atom of existence, there is both light and dark. There is no molecule of material reality that is either one or the other. They are all both. The idea that you could be only feminine or only masculine is not representative of the fundamental building blocks of the universe. And in that sense, what you can do to recognize or to resolve the conflict that arises out of duality and polarity is to recognize that fundamentally you are both, that there could never be a war between light and dark because neither can exist without the other. If you can imagine turning on a light in an already lighted room, it has no impact. It has no power. In the Orion civilization, the power of our fire, of our flame, was that it burned so brightly because it burned in the dark. All knowledge comes from darkness into illumination. If it is not birthed in darkness, it can never reach the illuminated state. And you understand that whilst they represent different aspects of existence, they work in tandem to generate the experience, to generate the expansion. You cannot expand only into darkness. That would certainly be an unending expansion into chaos, as we described in our previous transmission. And you cannot expand only into light, as that would be an unending expansion into, for want of a better word, order. And there cannot be only chaos or only order. There is always both, harmoniously co-creating every aspect of your expansion. And therefore, what it behooves humanity to recognize at this time, that whether they see themselves as light or whether they see themselves as dark, to embrace the other element inside themselves and inside each other. When you push away darkness or you push away light, that resistance creates a tension that keeps you in a sense of polarity. The famous words of your, we will say, ascended master, Dr. King, did note, darkness cannot push out darkness, only light can do that. And that is the recognition that it is in the dance of both elements, of all elements, the inclusive embrace of both, that you free yourself from the pain of polarity and become whole. Does that help?
Tremendously. Powerful and very beautiful as well. Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
So I have a question very specific to myself and contact.
Yes.
One of my biggest desires, if not the biggest desires, is to have physical contact with beings from elsewhere. I've had contact in the past, and it's taken a while to remember that contact. But what is it in this moment, in this now moment, that I'm doing that isn't allowing me to have more of this conscious contact? Or what more can I be doing? No, what is it that I'm doing that's stopping this contact from manifesting physically?
One moment. Where is elsewhere? You have said you would like to contact beings from elsewhere. Where is it?
Not great question. Not humans. So I'm
Yes.
open to, for example, cetaceans, Sasquatch as well, or extraterrestrials or aliens, beings from different versions of Earth.
Yes, indeed. The first thing we would recommend you could do is to define very specifically the beings that you would like to make contact with. And the dolphin beings who are deeply related to your Sirius star system and Sirius beings from that system, and the hominid form that became the Sasquatch, they are all available and accessible to you if you can define where you might communicate with them. And we will tell you that the where is now, and it is at a specific vibrational frequency range. And in that sense, you have two steps you can take that will make contact more fluid. You can define the type of being you would like to make contact with and begin to work on raising your vibrational frequency range to the frequency range that can communicate, firstly through telepathy with those beings, and secondly in physical reality. This is certainly within your reach. Most certainly, you have already had telepathic communications with many of these beings, but you have not quite allowed yourself to trust that that is what it is. And that is again where you can work on your belief systems through the efforts that you make in raising your vibration to allow yourself to more and more lean into your telepathic contact experiences. As your confidence in those experiences grows, you will start to see that reality becomes more like a lucid dream. The veil becomes thin, if you like. The picture becomes pixelated. And in that sense, your grip on the illusion, or we should say the grip the physical mind has on the illusion, starts to slide. And that is the perfect environment for physical contact with beings from elsewhere, as you described. Does that help?
It does help a bit, but the the trusting or the knowing, we're making all of this up as we go along. So how do I define the difference between it's just made up in my imagination and there's an actual being at the end of this communication?
In a sense, it is, if you can allow yourself to view the unfolding of this process as somewhat of a wrestling between your physical mind and your higher mind, between your future expanded self and your, we don't want to use this word in a disparaging sense, but your ego self. The ego does often get a bad rap, and we encourage you to be most grateful for the role your ego plays in helping you to navigate physical reality. But in a sense, the ego can try to, if you like, overreach its jurisdiction. The ego does not want you to go mad. The ego does not want you to fall for any false ideas. The ego does not want you to look silly in front of other people. And therefore, it asks for some type of guarantee. I will believe that when I see it. The proof is in the pudding, and so on and so forth. However, we would ask you to, as you transition through that particular development, developing, cultivating that trust in your higher mind, allow yourself to thank your ego for its fastidiousness in ensuring that you are not becoming foolish or mad in your endeavors to expand. But this is not the moment where the ego needs to be in the driving seat. Your imagination, as you have described it, magi, the part of the phonetic of the word is magi. A magi is, in one sense, a magician of reality, and your imagination is your most powerful state of mind in which you can become a magician of your reality and create your reality at will. And in that sense, it is part of the learning of becoming a magician, of how to really see that you need to lean into your imagination and let your ego take a backseat just for a while. We appreciate the ego's contribution to your survival in your third dimension, but the fourth dimension is all about magi. Does that help?
It does. Thank you very much.
You are so welcome.
Hello, Zariyah.
Hello.
It's so wonderful to be talking with you again.
We are so pleased for your co-creation in this transmission as well.
Thank you for everything you share with us and all of the help that you offer with us. Luis's comment made me think that I actually do have a question.
Yes.
Last time you and I spoke, I was at the beginning of a journey into exploring darkness, and
Yes.
I've learned a lot since we spoke last. And my question is, in a practical sense, what does embracing darkness look like?
It is to not invalidate darkness. It is to allow that it is a valid universal form, and that many experiences, much growth is born out of darkness. In fact, every creative expansion is born of darkness. You can recognize that the physicists on your planet are just coming to understand ideas such as dark matter as the creative non-space, if you like, from whence all expansion is born. You have an analogous representation of this in your human life cycle. The idea of birth is that it comes from a spark of light in a dark room. The idea of death, which is really rebirth, is the idea that you travel back to the light and into the great unknown, which is often perceived as the great darkness, the untraveled country, if you will. There is not a creative, expansive experience that isn't some embrace between darkness and light. And therefore, if you try to suppress either of those categories of form, you suppress the entire expansive and creative process, and you become in, as we were in Orion, a holding pattern of sorts. In Orion, we were trapped in a polarity in which only darkness was allowed to pervade. And the idea of light was that it would be extinguished wherever it was found, and that didn't ultimately arrest, but certainly distorted our expansive capacity. The irony being that in that distortion, we found other ways to expand in more magnificent ways than we could ever have imagined. And it was through that irrepressible dance, really, of darkness and light, because ultimately, in the suppression of either, you do not succeed in containing or extinguishing either. You but find a new way for the dance to find expression. When you look, if you want to talk about your fourth dimensional experience, when you look or observe or ruminate on beings who you consider to be representative of dark or representative of light, it is an opportunity for you to embrace what they reflect back to you inside of yourself, because it is the representation of the ideas of both of those parties that they feel they are in polarity that makes their representation so insistent, if you like. By embracing what they represent, their need to force their experience into the spotlight, if you will, is relaxed. And in that sense, when you hear of narratives about a war between dark and light, it is, in a sense, perhaps not an accurate vocabulary. What there is a recognition of the eternal dance and an ultimate embracing of yourself back into wholeness and back into balance. As you reach that point, you really align with such a high vibrational center point that you really start to emerge into those higher fourth dimensional energies and fifth dimensional experience. Does that help?
Oh my gosh, tremendously, tremendously. I'm feeling called to ask one quick question. Is there a word that you use in the Orion system to describe that dance of staying in the light while still exploring the dark?
It is not a word that is particularly translatable. The experience that we have often described to you of cultivating the internal light culminated on our planet with the birth of a child. And that child was born without the mark or the encoding of polarity, if you will. The child represented a birth into a higher consciousness experience within our civilization. And the name of that child was
Could you say that again?
it is the sound of in and the recognition of the breath as the perfect balance between in and out that gives life. You have many representations on your planet of this story for your own particular timelines. The idea that the birth of a child can represent a flood of new consciousness on your planet. This is not uncommon in many civilizations who have gone through a period of enormous transformation and have reached a higher vibrational frequency range as a result. Does that help?
Incredibly. That's so inspiring. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you, and I love you. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Our unconditional love to you as well.
Hello again.
Hello.
I'm feeling the gratitude, the happy feeling. I'm feeling high by just being in this group. So I'd like to know, what do we have in common here, or what makes us all feel that way by just being here?
You have all made agreements to be part of the evolution of the collective at this time in order to bring your civilization on the timeline that you are on towards contact, which is ultimately a tremendous leap in the evolutional journey of your species. The idea that you will need to raise your vibration for contact is also a dual task, if you like. The raising of your vibration to such an extent is, in fact, an evolution of your species. You are unlocking various capabilities, strands of your DNA, if you like, that make it possible for your species to make contact with the hybrid children, that make it possible for your species to continue to what is often referred to as the new Earth, and to join your galactic family in the knowledge of who you really are. Did you think you just came here to work your 9 to 5?
Thank you. That's beautiful.
You are so welcome. As you practice maintaining and holding the vibrational frequency range that you allow yourself to ascend to when you come into communion in groups like this, it will become more and more familiar to you. You will spend more and more time emanating that vibrational frequency range, and that lifts the range of other beings around you, be they other human beings, plant, or any and all life forms. And that is indeed a trajectory that is the one that will ultimately facilitate contact. If you hadn't come to participate in this way, we don't know that we would be here talking with you. We don't know, in fact, that you would be on the path to contact, which you certainly are. How exciting. We thank you for your service. It is a joy to co-create with you in this way.
Thank you.
Hi, Zariyah.
Hello.
It's wonderful to be back with you.
Wonderful to be with you as well.
So I'm grappling with an idea, or what almost something I would consider a paradox.
Yes.
And it's this, that in our 3D reality, we think we have a past.
Yes.
But of course we don't, because each instant is completely new, a clean slate.
Yes.
So that's not true. Our past simply does not exist. All that exists is the present moment, in which we would create a past if we chose.
Yes.
Now, if we set our intention to create a self that could aid us in our present, and we explain that to somebody in this dimension or this reality, they would consider that to be untrue or false or a lie.
Do you mean that if you created a for want of a better word, counterpart self to assist you in this now moment on your timeline now, that if you described what you had done to another being, they would think you mad?
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly it. So, I guess it feels to as I so my point of power is now, so I can create or connect with a future self or a past self, or create a past self that would aid me in my present.
Yes.
But working with others in this reality would be, they would think I was delusional, and they would want to put me in a in a straitjacket in a place for mentally ill people.
How exciting. We just. The idea that you would represent yourself as delusional, as you say, to other people in your description of your understanding of the way reality works is somewhat amusing to us, as you are having this conversation, speaking to an extraterrestrial being from billions of light years away in a now moment on another timeline that you would consider millennia old. Does that not strike you as somewhat delusional?
Well, it strikes me as very, very funny, and I really appreciate that. Yes, 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 it is.
We will draw for you some ideas, or just point out some ideas that are to do with timelines, the idea of a past and a future. In the decision to incarnate in the third dimension, you decided to make a collective agreement that there was such a thing as a past and there was such a thing as a future in a linear sense. Although you do know now in your understanding of reality that it is all happening now, that there is only the coordinates of space and time, and that in those coordinates it is now all over the map. Although you understand that, you can also, if you can hold this idea in your mind at the same time, recognize that in this now moment you are having multiple experiences. You are having billions of experiences in this now moment, and it is really almost impossible for the physical mind to arrange that into a form that is useful in the third dimension. If you understand that you came to the, and we will say in this sense, we mean fourth dimension at this time. But if we speak generally about the third dimension, the advantage of the third dimension is that you forget that it is all happening now. You forget that you are experiencing a billion different things now, and you create through collective agreement the idea of linear time so that you can have an unfolding of certain themes through which you can expand. And in that sense, the collective agreement of linear time is useful for the unfolding of your experience. And so if you did, if you like, invite other people who are really in agreement with that collective understanding into the idea of time as it really is, they would certainly feel that you were delusional because their physical mind is not able to make sense of that reality as they are in the third or fourth dimension. As you yourself are moving into those fifth dimensional energies, you recognize more and more that that is a powerful illusion, extremely powerful, but an illusion no less. You can now choose to use it when it is advantageous to you, for example, in conversation with other people, and to subvert it when you know it is not advantageous. For example, when you want to draw on your counterpart selves to come and infuse your experience in this now moment. Does that help?
Oh,
The
yes,
paradox.
that really shines a light on it. Thank you so much.
We will just add that the paradox that you refer to is the idea that it is both. Linear time exists, even if it is only in the collective high mind, and the multiple personalities and experiences that exist in this now moment is also true. And in that sense, the paradox is holding both of those ideas in your mind at the same time.
Oh, I really appreciate that. That's very enlightening. Bless you.
Blessings also to you.
I had another question.
Yes.
So we as a civilization are choosing to raise our vibrational frequency, and other civilizations in their cycle are choosing a, if you will, downward spiral. Besides the fact that there would then be darkness and lightness, why would a civilization choose the darkness in this way? For example, maybe to focus the question, hurting each other. We are choosing to love each other and embrace each other. Why would another civilization choose to hurt each other? If that makes sense.
Well, in the sense, the idea is that every experience is valid, and every experience is a valid exploration. There are things that unfold in what you would consider dark timelines, if you will, that are infused with deep divinity, because there are seekers on the path who have chosen to incarnate for that specific experience, to understand the operation of their vibrational frequency range in that particular context. It is never the case that anybody is participating in a vibrational frequency range that does not serve them in some broader sense. The idea is really that you decide your vibrational frequency range, and in that decision and in that action, if you like, you attract towards you similar experiences that other beings are having in that vibrational frequency range. It is not that, in a sense, one group's experience is more valid than another group's experience. It all represents expansion, and it's all just a reflection of what you prefer. However odd it may seem, there are people who prefer to vibrate at what you might consider a lower frequency range, because there are ways of unpacking themes and there are experiences that they can have by vibrating with that collective. And your preference may be, as you see it, to vibrate in a higher vibrational frequency range, because that is your preference. No experience is necessarily a representation of a downward spiral and an upward spiral, if you like. They are representations of different experiences on what we might consider a horizontal plane. And we use that description because it is easier to view a horizontal plane without a hierarchical viewpoint, where you view something as spiraling up or spiraling down. Even if it does well describe the nature of vibration, there is a tendency to impose judgment on different, what you would consider ends of the vibrational frequency scale. And in that sense, we say source invalidates nothing. Source embraces all. Everything that vibrates with life force energy is an expression of expansion of source itself. And in that recognition, you start to achieve that vibrational frequency range of unconditional love and that embrace between lightness and dark that we have so described. Does that help?
Immensely. Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Zariyah, we are right at the hour mark. Would you like to wrap up, or do you have a little more time?
If there is one further question, we will take that question and then we will bid you good day.
All right. This is Curious Jeffrey's lucky day, I guess. He
Yes.
would like to know about the significance of the Heaven's Gate group, which committed suicide in our timeline.
One moment. Yes, well, indeed, this does reflect what we have already been describing about the willingness of beings to co-create experiences that expand them in some way and expand the collective in some way. There has been a focusing, if you will, on the organization of different cultural, religious, spiritual groups, if you like, on your planet as you came into and emerged from the 20th century. And this focus of different groups in particular ways has expanded the collective understanding of what liberation from doctrines, dogmas, and orthodoxies of religious, spiritual, or other types of communities really looks like. The representation that groups such as these made were further reflections on the enormous impact of organized religion on your timeline for many centuries, if you will, and the recognition that the idea that you can reach source through different behaviors as groups, through different laws and edicts, through worshipping of different ideas or identities has been blown open as you raise your vibration, because you are starting to recognize, as we did recognize in our Orion civilization, that source is contactable, always without gatekeepers, without rules, regulations, doctrines, and behaviors, in your own self, the church of your own self. And therefore, groups such as that have served to illuminate ideas around not just orthodoxies of religion, but the history that you have deep in your ancient past of Atlantis and other Egyptian timelines of worshipping extraterrestrials. They are no more gods over you than any other type of being. And they have served the collective in that way by performing for you the, we will describe perhaps, unhappy resolution of a timeline in which you make gods out of extraterrestrials. In fact, one of the precursors to contact will be the recognition of those ready and able beings that they are equal brethren to extraterrestrials, that they are family, and that they are meeting you at a vibrational frequency range in which you can share and mutually expand rather than worship or idolize. Does that help?
It helps me. It was quite the expansive answer, and Jeffrey will be blown away. Thank you so much, Zariyah.
Curious, Jeffrey. We thank you for your questions and we bid you good day. Hello. My eyes are stuck together. It's too much mascara.
Yay, Ash.
Thank
Oh,
you so much.
thanks so much, guys. I so appreciate everybody coming. Yay,
Oh,
it's
it's
so
worth
great.
waiting for.
Thank you.
It's
It was
really lovely to
amazing.
be able to bring Zariyah through again. So thank you for co-creating that.
Yep, we'll
Thank
try.
you.
Yep, indeed. We'll pack the house again next month when you show up again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, sorry,
keep
my
busy.
eyes watering.
you.
I better
That's
go.
right.
Thank you.
We love you, Ed.
Thank you, Ice.
Well, I
Thank
love
you.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love
Bye.
you. Good
Amazing. Amazing. Amazing.
night. Sorry.